Morning, peeps. Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing? Hopefully, you're all doing very, very well. All right, let's have a quick look and see what there is to talk about today from the world of boxing. Before we do that, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. If you guys are new to the channel, don't forget as well to like and share the vids. Also, don't forget, this Saturday, live watch along, Tyson Fury versus Dillian Whyte. We're going to get underway from 8 o'clock. I think the ring walk time for Fury Whyte is 10 o'clock. So that means we're going to do, 2-hour build-up. We'll probably cover the Kakachi fight, the David Adeleye fight. But I guess what we're really doing in those 2 hours is just answering all the questions that come in, having a bit of fun, as we always do. If you've watched the live watch-alongs before, you know that it is fun until the main event. And then I put my commentator hat on and give you the best commentary I can possibly give you. But yeah, it should be fun. So this Saturday, 8 p.m, Tyson Fury versus Dillian Whyte, live watch-along. I'm thanking you in advance for coming, so please make sure you do. All right, let's start with Tyson Fury, Dillian Whyte. Obviously, the fight now is 3 days away. 3 days away. There was a public workout yesterday. Dillian Whyte was a no-show. Frank Warren did say it's because his plane was delayed. I don't know. I feel like he just had no intention of coming. And look, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes with him turning up for things and not turning up for things. But look, he will turn up on Saturday, and I guess that's the main thing. He will also turn up, we're hearing today, for the press conference. And I think that's important, trying to get that final push, those final, you know what it is? Some people have said things like, it doesn't affect the fight if Dillian Whyte doesn't do all the press and all the media. And you're right, it doesn't affect the fight. But in terms of the sell of the fight, which I guess we really shouldn't care about, but in terms of Frank Warren and Queensberry and Top Rank trying to get a certain number, it affects it massively. Like massively. Hardcore boxing fans, they've already got our money. We're happy to give them, the $24.95. But those people that are on the periphery, you need to sell it to them. That's why they do these things. Why do you think they do these 24/7s, the behind the scenes, press conference after press conference after press conference? Why do you think that is? You know, you don't spend hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions doing those things if you don't think it's going to give you something back. And what they're hoping back is pay-per-view sales, pay-per-view buys. Think of the biggest fight commercially in the last 10 years, or at least in the top two, is Conor McGregor, Floyd Mayweather. Now, you could argue and say that doesn't require any promotion at all. You've got the two most high-profile sort of combat sport athletes going head-to-head. You don't require promotion. They've done 3 press conferences in 3 different countries. America, Canada, and they done one in England, right? I think it was York Hall, Bethnal Green, I think. No, it wasn't. It might have been anyway, but it was in London. Why do you think they did that? To make sure they capitalized on every single sell they could. So for Fury and Whyte not to do anything, trust me, it's going to affect sales. It will. Again, not us hardcore fans, and we are a minority. It's the ones that are casual and on the edge, like, should I buy it? Should I not? They need to see some stuff. And that's why it's disappointing that we haven't got to see anything. Like, it's even disappointing, like, obviously Dillian Whyte clearly wasn't going to allow BT Sport cameras into his training camp, and again, disappointing, but I get it. Dillian Whyte's got a YouTube channel. I thought he might have just maybe chucked some stuff on his YouTube channel. Maybe, but no. So this will definitely affect the pay-per-view buys. Again, it doesn't go into my pocket, so I don't necessarily care, but for Frank Warren, who would have been hoping this fight would have done 1 million. I think you would have been hoping this fight would have done 1 million pay-per-view buys. If you don't get the casuals in, and the way to get them in is by giving them content and feeding them. Remember, it doesn't have the Sky Sports machine. It doesn't have where it's constantly in your face. You know it's going on. It doesn't have that. BT Sports don't have a news channel. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, it's getting nowhere near 1 million. I think it would get. It still do good numbers, but I think it's going to do around 600,000 to 700,000 pay-per-view buys. And that's a big, big dent in their pocket. I mean, 300,000 times $24.95. I mean, you do the math on it. It's big dent. So, yeah, bit disappointing. Tyson Fury spoke to one of my close colleagues at TalkSport, James Savundra, and he said that this is it. After this, it's done. He's retiring from the sport. And normally, look, when Tyson Fury says something, you take it with a pinch of salt. You're like, sure. But, I mean, yes, look, the carrot being dangled in front of him is the undisputed, right? That's what's been dangled in front. You win this, fingers crossed, then AJ fights Usyk and you fight the winner of that and it's for 100 million. That's the carrot being dangled. I don't know. I don't know if he cares about that enough. Honestly, I mean, the way he talks, I don't know if he cares. He's going to... Look, Tyson Fury, in the last 2-3 years, has made hundreds of millions. Like, honestly, those 3 Wilder fights would have made really good money. Tom Schwartz, Otto Volin, now this fight, the WWE thing he did, all the book sales, all the media stuff he's done. He's okay. He's okay. He's got a family. His faculties all in place. Maybe... I still don't think it will happen, but maybe he does just walk away. Maybe he announces his retirement at the end of the fight, and so he's done, he's retired, and then it's a case of something has to happen to pull him back. Something has to happen. I don't think he will call it quits, but he's mentioned it a few times now. Before I thought it was tongue-in-cheek, then I was having a conversation with Nick Pete from Fight Disciples yesterday, and Nick was like, look, as much as he would want to become undisputed, Tyson Fury has won all those belts. He's not had them all at the same time, but remember, he got all those belts off Klitschko, and now he's got the WBC belt of Deontay Wilder, and he's got the Ring magazine. So he's won them all. He's got all the belts already. So yes, he hasn't worn them all in the ring at the same time, but in his house right now, he has every single belt. So I don't know. He might just think, you know what? Yeah. And what a way to kind of ride off into the sunset. 94,000 at Wembley. And I think he'll get the job done against Dillian Whyte. Maybe that's the time to kind of say, you know what, done. My reason for wanting him to continue is not necessarily because there's more money on the table, because there'll always be money on the table. It's more a case of people, and this is Fury fans, the hardcore Fury fans, started to compare him to some of the greats, like the real top 5, top 10 heavyweights of all time. And for me, that resume needs to be thicker. If we're going to have that conversation, it needs to be a lot thicker and it needs to be longer as well, in terms of you doing this for 6 or 7 years straight and you've got 10 title defenses. Because that's kind of what the best have done. And the best have even done longer than that. It's way more than that. But let's just give him that for now. If you are going to compare Tyson Fury, you can't just bring Klitschko and Deontay Wilder to the table. I'm not having, I need more. And that more could be Usyk. That more could be if AJ beats Usyk, AJ. That more could be Joe Joyce. That more could be, I'm just chucking names out here now, Ruiz. That more could be Hrgovic, Tony Yoka. If we are going to have a serious conversation. If we don't want to have a conversation about, you know, Tyson Fury's GOAT status, then yeah, he could just call it quits. He could just say, you know what, enough's enough. He could. I know that pisses a few of you off, but I'm not going to let it get cold. I fucking spent £4 on this. But look, I think he will retire at the end of the fight. I think he will, whoever gets in the mic and does the interviews, I think they'll ask him the question. I think he will say, no, I'm done. I think he will say that. And I think he will be done officially. And then I think it's a case of something's got to happen to kind of pull him back out. And I think that the one thing that could happen is if AJ beats Usyk. I'm not sure if Tyson Fury will retire, and then if Usyk beat AJ, Usyk calls him out, and I don't know if that's enough to kind of get him up for it. Do you know what I mean? Whereas an AJ win, and AJ gets the mic and calls him out, I think that's enough for him to say, okay, let's do this. Let's do this. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Did you see John Fury the other day, yesterday, almost tried to make a comparison between Tommy Fury and Golovkin? Jesus Christ, man. Jesus Christ. All right, let's see what stories there is aside from the big fight. We are going to do some more big fight build-up throughout the week. I'm just going to chuck videos out there. Who wins type video, how they win, blah, 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 blah. David Benavidez will consider move to 175 if no big fight comes around. Isn't Benavidez scheduled to fight David Lemieux? Is that don't tell me that fight's fallen through. Sometimes it's hard to keep up with what's going on in boxing world. Pretty sure he's got that fight with David Lemieux scheduled, unless obviously he has, but that's obviously not a big fight for him. The 21st of May. Obviously he had that little altercation with Jamal Charlo. That's the fight we want to see. I feel like I see the Charlos have more little altercations ringside with big name fighters rather than actually fight the big name fighters. But look, we'll see what happens. Errol Spence is now gunning for Terence Crawford, by the way. Like, you know, like it's almost like he's now decided that's all I want. Don't talk to me about anything else. All I want is Terence Crawford. Like, he done this amazing photo on his Twitter page. I think it might have been on his Instagram as well, where he's in a supermarket and he's got like a shopping list. And he's got all the belts he's won. So Kell tick, Ugas tick, and I think it was Danny Garcia or Sean Porter, I can't remember, but tick. And then the last one, it's Terence Crawford. Love it. Absolutely love it. And let's see what happens. This is Jamel Charlo here. No intention of fighting Errol Spence. Obviously they weren't, they're good friends, but Crawford can get that work. We'll see. Obviously Jamel Charlo's got Castano to get through first, then we'll see what he can do. Crawford has spoken about fighting Jamel Charlo, but Crawford's got work in front of him with Errol Spence. He really has. That is a blockbuster of a fight. Like, dude, it doesn't get better than that. It doesn't get. That for me is almost like, you know, when you watch those fights in the 70s and the early 80s between the four kings. Do you know what I mean? That's what this reminds me of. This Errol versus Terence. It's special. It is special, and I can't wait. Fury backs Usyk to end Joshua's career with dominant rematch win. Let's see, man. Let's see. Like, I think people need to go back and watch that fight. Like, don't get me wrong. Usyk won the fight. Usyk's teeing off on AJ. AJ has his spots. He has his spots, and he just doesn't capitalize on them. He almost has these spots and kind of just pulls back a bit. Whereas I need to see AJ. You know, it's almost like there's a clip of AJ when he goes to his gym in Finchley and he's hitting. I can't remember. I don't know how to describe that thing. It's straight armed and he's hitting it, and you move and you dodge and it hits him, and he kind of laughs and said, "Oh, I'm a shit boxer, ain't I?" I almost feel like they've tried to look. AJ's not a shit boxer, by the way, but I almost feel like they've tried to make AJ a much better boxer, and in doing so, they've almost removed that wrecking machine destroyer in him. Like, now he's actually very clean with his work, very clean. But I almost feel like sometimes if you go back and watch the old AJ fights, when he has you hurt, he's a finisher. If he senses anything, he's on you. Very reminiscent of Conor Ben, the way Conor Ben talks. Like, if I see a little thing there, I'm gonna eat you. AJ was a bit like that. And don't get me wrong, as you go up in levels, you can't just pounce on people. But I do feel like there are openings AJ will find, and it's just a case of whether or not AJ backs himself, whether it's his chin or his gas tank, to fully commit and go to those openings, like fully commit. We'll see. We will see. I've heard that Bob Arum, I don't know if this is true, is in the TalkSport studios today. Hopefully, I can go and see good old Bob. Be interesting to see. I hate the fact that I'm not, like, when they get all these boxing people in the studio, this is me having a bit of dig at TalkSport here. Like, why am I not involved in the interview sometimes? Like, Eddie was on the other day. I'm like, I should be in there. Do you know what I mean? But we'll get there. We know where we've come from. You know, we still got places to go. Conor Ben promises to stop Kell Brook in 3 rounds. Plays down Amir Khan bout. Yeah, obviously Amir Khan. I don't know what all that was about. I just spoke to Conor Ben about an hour ago for the DAZN boxing show. Gave big respect to Virgil Ortiz. Like, Tony Bellew asked him what, like, welterweight out there excites you in terms of fighting style, and he says Virgil Ortiz. He says if they were to fight, you know, both of them would probably have to get up off their backside. It will literally be brick versus brick. I don't know about Conor Ben stopping Kell in 3. I think Kell, big and strong at the weight, very good boxer. Still think Kell can take a punch, can take a couple of licks. I don't know about that. I think that's a very, very close fight. I wouldn't know who to favour in that, actually. And honestly, I wouldn't know who to favour in it. Obviously, a lot would favour the young, hungry Conor Ben. But Kell, very spiteful, you know, like very, very spiteful. So we'll see. We'll see. Anything else before we move on and get on with life? Otto Volin here saying, Whyte doesn't have fast hands or fast feet you need to beat Fury. I get that. I understand. But what he does have, Dillian Whyte, is grit. Like real grit and just the ability just to grind you down and just to not stop himself. Look, you'd always favour Tyson Fury. I don't think I've met anyone that's, picked Dillian Whyte, but this is boxing. You never know. Peace and love.